what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Pocket Pulp. This week I am excited to present The Reason We Run by T.W. Iain. Back in 2016, T.W. Iain decided to produce a short story every 2 weeks, each one under 1,000 words. He did that while working a full-time job and also writing novels, so apparently not sleeping. That whole project, he said, was an incredible learning exercise in writing, editing, and perseverance, and it also taught him to do proper research before starting any more ridiculous challenges. But it resulted in 100 short stories, all of which are available to read on his website, twian.com. And the Iain is spelled I-A-I-N, so just twian.com. He said now that he has all of the short stories out of his system, he is now concentrating on his novels. He has a sci-fi horror trilogy, the Shadows trilogy. I want to read the description here real quick because it sounds so cool. The company enhanced Bryce. They promised him action and adventure, but he's stuck on a malfunctioning craft with a crew who treat him like a child. He's miles from home, in the worst storm of the season, and night is falling. And in the shadows, the creatures wait, their hunger growing. The company prepared Bryce for many things, but nothing can prepare him for what he must face when the shadows fall. And that is the description for Shadowfall, which is the Shadows Book 1. I'll put a link in the notes for that as well. He also has another series called Dominions. It's a dark dystopian series that is violent, intelligent, and unexpected, and it's 9 books deep, and I will put a link to that as well. TW says that he has tried social media, but he is as much of an introvert online as he is in the real world, and that the best place to find out more is from his website, where you can join his newsletter and get a couple of free novellas. But he is on Twitter. I saw him. You can follow him there at TW_Iain. And again, I will put links to everything in the notes, to the website, to Twitter, to the books on Amazon, just in case you forget how to spell T.W. Iain, Iain with 2 I's, I-A-I-N. That's not that hard, right? T-W-I-A-I-N, T-W-I-A-I-N. You got it, I got it, we got it. Okay, let's move on. If you're enjoying Pocket Pulp, tell somebody. Or don't. All right, let's just get to the story. I'm excited. And now, The Reason We Run by T.W. Iain, read by Eric Brian Moore. I think I hear something. My voice is a hoarse whisper, but she hears anyway. Her body, beneath my hand, goes rigor mortis stiff. In a moment, she's awake, sitting up in my arms. What? She starts, but I hold up a hand to silence her. Her breath is warm against my palm. We both listen, eyes on the door. It has 2 heavy-duty bolts, one at the top, the other at knee height. They clunked in place when I sealed us in as dawn broke, and the memory of the sound reminds me of my cell, reminds me of the stink and the cold and the screams. I concentrate. Even with so few survivors around, there is never silence. Wind moans outside, and sudden gusts shake the glass in the rotting window frame. In the distance, a dog barks, just once. I try not to think of what might have stopped it. There's no traffic, no roar of engines, no call and response of angry horns. There's no music, no television. We never hear laughter now. But we both hear the creak of a door. And I think it might be a cupboard. There are big units down in the kitchen. She wanted to hide inside one of them. She said that nobody would think to look in there. We need to get out, she says, the words tumbling from her lips. Her head jerks as she looks around the room. There's not much to see. The bed is upturned, the mattress ripped to shreds. There's a stain on the carpet, and I think that's where the rotten meat stink comes from. The pile of wood in the corner might have once been a wardrobe. And there's the window. tattered curtain no barrier for the weak sun. And beyond the window, a flat roof and an easy drop into the back garden. That's why I wanted to be up here and not in a kitchen cupboard. It's safer to have an escape route. It might not find us, I tell her. Just stay still. Don't let on we're here. Her body twitches, but she doesn't give in to the adrenaline. I'm twitching myself, anticipating what's about to happen. There's a creak, then another. Footsteps on boards that have come loose. I noticed those boards when we climbed the stairs, pointed them out to her. You said we'd be safe here. There's only a hint of accusation in her voice. I grab her hand, give it a squeeze. It's cold and clammy. More creaks from the stairs, and what sounds like someone muttering. Human, then, and uninfected. But that's not necessarily a good sign. Come on, I say, standing and pulling her to her feet. I lead her across to the window. The creaking beyond the door is louder now. There is the sound of wood splintering, and whoever is out there curses. I push the window frame, and at first it doesn't move, the damp warping it shut. But I push harder, and the frame splinters, the window swinging open. She gasps and gives me a look, but there's no helping the noise. You first, I step back. She's reluctant, but another creak almost outside the door spurs her on. She climbs up, then leaps. I imagine a bird taking flight, and I remind myself again how agile, how perfect she is. That was something the beatings and the torture in the dungeon could never diminish, not in my eyes. She lands soundlessly on the roof, takes a single step to keep her balance. She glances up at me, then runs to the edge of the flat roof, peering into the grass. It's long, could be hiding anything, and it stretches perhaps 20 meters to a broken fence. Beyond is a weed-strewn field, flanked by trees. The trees cast long shadows like deformed fingers ready to snatch us up. Something slams against the door, and a voice roars. She shudders, looks back up at me with wide eyes. The door thuds, jerks in its frame. I breathe fast as I climb through the window and jump. My landing's nowhere near as graceful as hers, and I stagger, almost falling as I reach the edge of the roof. Quick, she yells, at the same time as a splintering crash fills the air behind me. I jump, land poorly, and collapse. My hand goes into something I hope is only mud, and I roll. But she's pulling me up, her nails broken, her skin rough and stained. A figure appears at the window. It swings a club and glass shatters, shards dancing in the light. We run for the end of the garden. The figure leaps onto the roof. It's bulky, dressed in a long coat that looks stained with blood. It waves the club, screams at us wordlessly. Then it runs to the edge of the roof and leaps off. We slam against the old fence panels and they break under our weight. Then we race into the field. I hear something fall behind us. Hear a grunt. More cursing. Trees, I say, pointing. I want to add more, but my chest already burns. We push through the grass, staggering on the uneven ground beneath our feet. But we move fast as we can, ignoring the thorns and the thistles and the ever-present weariness. We don't stop, even when we reach the darkness under the trees. That was too close, she says. The closest yet. I agree, even though she's wrong. When we first escaped, we were lazy, didn't realize what things were like outside. A few times we had to fight. There's hardly anybody left. Those who escaped the virus have moved away, and the remaining infected are dying anyway. The virus makes them crazy and aggressive, but weak. We fought them off with pool cues and rusted iron pipes. But those who track us, those who work for the surgeon, they're organized and determined. We've evaded them so far, but in a straight fight, I know they'd beat us. That's why we need to keep moving. We got away, I tell her. We're safe again. She nods, and I look around our new shelter. It's a treehouse, but it's nothing like the rickety wooden platform I had as a kid. No, this is a full room with walls and a roof. There's broken glass on the floor, and that tells me the gaps in the walls used to hold windows. There's a rope ladder that can be pulled up. The tree sits in a large back garden of a half-collapsed house. Nobody can come close without us spotting them. We sit on a moldy mattress under a threadbare blanket that smells of cabbage and damp. Still too close, she says, and she shudders. Her breath fogs in front of her face. It's going to be a cold day. I try not to think of the approaching winter. I swallow, my mouth dry. Maybe we should stop. No! The word comes out sharp and determined. We can't run forever, I say, although this is exactly what I want. I want us to keep moving, to stay together always. If we stop, he'll find us. Words I've said many times thrown back at me. You remember Faye? Of course I do. I'll always remember Faye, even though I want those images wiped from my mind. The girl, maybe only 16, strapped to the table, and the surgeon standing over her, bloody tools on a trolley by his side. The rest of us forced to watch, forced to endure his experiments, forced to learn the punishment for attempting to escape. But she never made it out, I say, hoping she takes my shaking for cold. We did, and he hasn't caught us yet. But he's come close. We don't know that. Last night, we can't know for definite, I say, cutting her off. She falls silent, and I have a moment to collect my thoughts, to plan my words. It might have been anyone. We don't even know if he's still looking for us. I make this last sentence as light as I can, but she shakes her head. No, he won't give up. He told us that many times. He said we were too important to him to abandon, that he needed those of us who were immune. He didn't like causing pain, he said, but it was an unfortunate necessity at times. He told us his work would help hundreds, thousands, millions. His work was important, and so he had to punish us for our ingratitude. Under the blanket, she squeezes my hand between her thumb and middle finger. I let my fingers brush against the stumps where the others used to be, before he took them. The rough scars are a constant reminder of what happened, and a part of me is thankful as I stroke those wounds. Without the surgeon, I would never have found her. At least we can rest, I say. This is a good place, and we'll move on when night falls. I bend my head down to the top of her head, smell the mud in her hair and the sweat that stains her clothes. But underneath that is the scent of cut grass and lavender, her own smell. Nothing can take that away. You get some sleep, I say. I'll wake you in a couple of hours. I smile, making this as normal as I can. She shuts her eyes and takes a deep breath. Her body deflates onto the mattress. I tuck the blanket around her. I don't know what I'd do without you, she mumbles, already close to sleep. And I smile. The phone is one of those retro things they used to bring out every few years. No voice control, no biometrics, not even a touchscreen. It's chunky with big ugly buttons and a tiny monochrome display. It's scratched to death, and the casing at the top is dented. I've cut myself on that edge more than once. I'm amazed it still works. The battery says 13%, but it's said that for as long as I can remember. And there's a solid 3 bars of signal out here. Back in the cell, the skinny guy with the missing ear explained this to me. He said he used to work for the government when things started to go down. Said all the top bods, all the ones in charge, hid in some bunker deep underground, and as far as he knows, they're still there. But to stay in control, they needed communication, so they used the army to keep the networks running. I reckoned he was talking crap at first, but he convinced me. Why, he asked, were the army protecting satellite centers and businesses while the hospitals were left to fend for themselves? Why were the army surrounding power stations while the infected tore through cities? After Surgeon took his eyes, he told me that the governments weren't the only ones with access to the networks. Hackers figured out a way in. He knew some people, gave me some names, said that if I ever got out, and he laughed when he said that, I'd need to pay these people well. Money wouldn't work. What use is money when there are no shops and no banks? So I found something else, because everyone has their price. I was never proud of dealing. I fell into it and couldn't escape. But now it gives me an edge. I've never used myself. I treated it like a business, and I planned. I hid stashes all over the place. And now when the world has gone to hell, when people are desperate for a respite from the nightmare, I can offer them release. And in return, they can do favors for me, like supply me with this phone. The pathetic screen glows blue, but I don't look at it as my fingers run over the worn, smooth keys. I can tap out this message with my eyes shut. Same with the number for the companion phone. I look back at the treehouse to check she's still safe. Then I look to the house. The back wall doesn't exist, the garden a pile of rubble. Inside, every door is missing, and I can see right through to the blackened front room with the charred remains on the floor. The house is nothing but a shell. My chest tightens, and for a moment I'm back in that cell before she came. I can smell the mold and the damp. I can hear the screams and the sobs. I hug myself as I shiver. I can feel my bones through thin skin and wasting muscles. I know I'll die in here. My only hope is that it's quick. Then they brought her in, and everything changed. I check the message has sent, power the phone down, and slip it back inside my jacket. I created the pocket myself, and with the jacket's padding, she'll never find it, not even when her hand rests against my chest, rests on the phone itself. She'll never know what I do to keep her safe. Then I unzip my trousers and aim for the tree trunk. I hear splashes, see greenery dance. It burns, and I know that's not a good sign. Deep inside, I know this can't go on forever, but for the moment, she's safe. For the moment, I can still protect her. She wakes me when the sun slips behind the house. We watch the shadows lengthen, and she talks of the sea again. That's a good sign. She slept well. The treehouse agrees with her. But it's dangerous to spend too long in one place. We rest during the day, move overnight. We head into the house and raid the remains of the kitchen. There's a still-sealed tin with one of those easy opening tops. It turns out to contain pineapple chunks. The juice dribbles down her chin, and I reach across to wipe it off. But she knocks my hand away, smiling. "Get your own," she says, and rubs a finger up her chin, collecting the juice. She puts the finger in her mouth, sucking, her eyes shut. She moans. "And I never used to like pineapple." She pulls another chunk from the tin and holds it out to me, between her thumb and remaining finger. She gives it a squeeze, freeing some of the juice. My stomach growls. I lean forward, my mouth open. She places the piece of fruit on my outstretched tongue, and the sharpness floods me as I let the chunk sit there. Then I chew and swallow, and I think I moan too. "I wish I could stay like this forever," she says. But we can't stay. We finish the tin, and then we walk. It's a dark night, the slither of moon shielded behind thick clouds. After an hour or so, water speckles my face. Within minutes, it's pouring. "Do you want to stop?" I ask. We're passing houses, all dark. There's no sign of anyone else around. "Just until the worst of the rain clears?" She shakes her head. "Better to keep moving when others will be sheltering. Less chance of meeting them." I told her that when we first climbed out of the sewer. Maybe I only wanted the rain to wash the stink off. Maybe I was afraid she'd leave me now that we were free from the dungeon. We walk on. The rain soaks through to my skin. I can't remember the last time I had a proper bath. We keep to side streets as much as possible. Once, these alleys would have been the hunting ground for the infected, but they've nearly all died out now, the virus taking their voices, their minds, and finally their lives. Now the side streets are safe. Safer than being in the open, anyway. She stops and points to a doorway. "What's that?" The door is stained, darker at the bottom by the pile of rubbish. I pull out my penlight, hesitate, my thumb over the switch. I don't have any spare batteries, and I always told her that light was our enemy, that it makes us easier to be spotted. I flick it on, one hand shielding the beam, and I play it over the dark red streaks on the door. Then I dip the beam down. My stomach flips. Beside me, she gasps. The flesh beneath the stain is putrid, and the whole thing shimmers. I don't know if that's from the rain or the maggots wriggling in the decay. White sticks protrude from the mess. "Is that a dog?" she asks. I have no idea, but I say, "I think it's human." "The bones are too small." "A child, then?" She turns, bends over, vomits. And I remember the little girl with the mop of dirty hair and the stained jumper with a faded cartoon character on the front. She never said a word, not when the surgeon's guards brought her in, and not when they took her away. There was a thud, I remember that, a hard sound that made all of us in the cells jump, and then the guards returned, alone. It wasn't usually like that. When the guards brought a new person in, there was screaming and crying, and if they made too much fuss, the surgeon would operate there and then, on the table in the middle of the dungeon. He'd use his tools, those of us in the cells his captive audience, and the screams and abuse would stop, one way or another. It happened that way when they brought her in with her companion. She whimpered, and the guards slapped her around before throwing her into my cell. But he shouted, calling the surgeon names. He was large, looked like he could take care of himself. But the surgeon didn't back down. The guards slashed the back of his legs, forced him onto the table, strapped him down. His shouts became screams, became gurgling, became silence. And she turned her head, burrowed into me. I did what I could to comfort her. I held her for hours, the shaking of her body giving me warmth. When she finally spoke, when she told me she wanted to die, I promised I'd keep her safe. I haven't broken that promise. In the alley, she straightens and wipes her mouth with her sleeve. The mangled corpse in the doorway could be anything. I kill my light. "Come on," I say. "We'll find somewhere comfortable for the day." She glances at the doorway, then back the way we've come. I follow her gaze, although I know that whatever did this has long gone. When we walk on, the stench of death hangs in the air, oppressive in its inevitability. It's close to midday, and the clouds are thinning enough to show weak orange sunlight. I shiver as I relieve myself again. It still burns. The body in the alley shook her more than I realized. It took her ages to fall asleep. She clung to me, warm and needy, shuddering constantly. I zip myself up and return to the path. I can still see the concrete bunker where she rests, on a mound in a clearing. It's full of old machinery, but I made space for us. There's also a kind of lookout on top, a raised section with glass panels facing every direction. With a few wooden crates stacked up, it means we can keep watch without leaving. But I had to get out. Along with the call of nature, I couldn't miss this meeting. There were no messages when I turned the phone on, so I know he's on his way. And now he appears from between the trees. 1 minute, I'm alone. The next, he's here. He never talks about his past, but I think he's ex-military. He wears heavy boots, black trousers, and a vest top. His skin is leathery, his hair short, his features serious. The pack on his back has seen better days, but still holds together. It suits him. When we shake hands, his engulfs mine. But he doesn't squeeze. Despite his intimidating size and demeanor, he's gentle at heart. I think that's why I trust him. "How long are you going to keep this up?" he says. He started our last few meetings with this question, and I give him the same answer I have given him before. "As long as I need to," he sighs. She's going to find out. You know that, don't you?" "She doesn't have to," he snorts. And I know he's right. But what else can I do? "It's getting harder," he says. "What is?" "Making it convincing. Last time I could have easily got you." He shakes his head. "I couldn't believe how slowly you got off that roof. I had to pretend to fall just to let you get away." "And you did a great job. She was terrified. Even I was scared. If anything, we need more close calls." He adjusts his weight from one foot to the other. "We?" "Of course. This is for both of us." I see the questioning look on his face. "All of us, you, me, her, we all gain, but she needs to be on edge. She needs that adrenaline. It's the only thing that keeps her going." "So you're doing this because it's good for her?" "You know I am." Did I say that too fast? "And she still believes he's after her?" "Yes." He pauses. A dark cloud drifts across the sun, and the trees behind him grow dark, almost red. "And when she finds out he's dead?" I shiver. "Who's going to tell her?" I don't mean that as a challenge, but that's how it feels as soon as the words leave my mouth, and I wish I could claw them back. But he won't betray me. He's on to a good thing here. He keeps doing what I ask, and I keep him supplied. He doesn't use, but he knows other dealers. He knows how to cut the stuff to make it go further. It makes his life easier. He takes another big breath, and his eyes turn hard. "I can't keep doing this." "Of course you can." "Nah, I'm out. No more." But you can't stop. I need this." I reach into a pocket, not the one with the phone, but the other one. I pull out the packet and hold it up for him to see. "You need this." There's a flash of interest in his eyes before they harden again. "I thought you were doing this for her." Yes, I am. For all of us. Don't you see? We all win if we stick with it." And in my mind, I see her running. I see her racing through the night, her breath short, the hairs on the back of her neck sticking up. Our hands are entwined as we pull each other along, our hearts pounding as we race away from danger. I feel her next to me, her body shaking, the sweat cooling, and I hold her close, make her safe. I give the packet a shake. I've only got one more packet on me, and I'm down to my last stash, if it hasn't been raided like the last one. He drops his head and he swallows. "One more," he says, and I struggle to keep the smile from my face. "But that's it. No more. After that, you're on your own." I nod vigorously. Fine, one more. That's fine. but let's make it a good one, okay? The closest yet." He reaches a hand out, and I drop the packet in it. He makes it disappear into a trouser pocket. "When?" he asks. "Tomorrow." When he raises an eyebrow, I say, "If you can manage that." He bites his lip, then nods. "Where?" It doesn't take me long to think. "Yesterday's location. We'll use the treehouse again." "I'll be there," he says. And I know he will. He hasn't let me down yet. "Tomorrow, but this is the last time." She wakes as the sun sets, as the orange sky turns black. We walk through the night. The treehouse is the same, but it feels different. The rope ladder creaks as we climb. The pile of broken glass in the corner seems larger. We talk for a while, discussing plans. When this is all over, she wants to go somewhere warm. She wants to walk barefoot on a beach. She wants to swim in the mornings and sleep in the afternoons. She says she wants to live the siesta lifestyle. I tell her I'd like that, and she smiles. But her eyes have that far-away look that I'm seeing more often. It's like she's already there in her mind. When the moon came out earlier, she tilted her head back and shut her eyes, as if it was the sun on her face, as if she felt the warmth on her skin. No matter how far we walk, we'll never reach the sea. And if we did, we wouldn't find those perfect beaches she dreams of. Those things are gone. She sleeps. I watch. I should keep a lookout, watch the trees around us, but I can't take my eyes off her. She's on her side, curled over, and she reminds me of a baby, pure and innocent. One hand is up by her head, her finger and thumb stretched out, the nails broken. Every so often the finger twitches. After what feels like an hour, a line of drool runs from the corner of her mouth. She smiles. It's a small thing, but it makes my stomach clench, tears me up inside. She's dreaming of the sea. I know she is. She doesn't want to be here. And who can blame her for that? This isn't life. Sure, it's better than being locked up in that dungeon. But what does she have now? She has me. But that's only because I protect her. That's only because I was the one to come up with the plan, the one to open the drain cover while the others in the cell slept. I was the one who led her through the sewers. I was the one who promised to keep her safe. She thinks I saved her. But she's wrong. I was dead back there in that cell, in that dungeon. I waited for the end, and then she appeared. She appeared, and I had something to live for. She's the only thing that keeps me alive. And she only stays with me because I keep her safe. I shudder. Think back to that conversation yesterday. And I know what I must do for both of us. I know how I can save us both. I lower the rope ladder as quietly as I can. She doesn't move. She's still by the sea, in her perfect world. Then I shuffle to the broken glass. I reach over, use finger and thumb to lift a suitable shard. The edge is keen, the point sharp. If I'm quick, if I hold her, she might not even wake. She'll remain on that beach forever. And then I'll use the glass on myself. Oh, it'll hurt like hell, but it'll be worth it. We can't run forever. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed The Reason We Run by T.W. Iain. You can check out T.W. on his website, twian.com, or on Twitter, TW_Iain, and Iain is spelled I-A-I-N. Be sure to subscribe, like, rate, and do all that good stuff. And of course, share Pocket Pulp. We appreciate it. And if you're a writer and you want to have your story featured on Pocket Pulp, shoot us an email, pocketpulpsubmission@gmail.com. My name is Eric Brian Moore. Eric with a C, Brian with a Y, Moore with 2 O's. Duh. You can check out my website, ericbrianmoore.com. You can follow me on Twitter @ericbrianmoore. Music by Blue Mount Score and Eternal Producer from Pixabay. Thanks again for hanging out, and I look forward to reading you another fantastic story soon.